Page weight, as we've seen earlier, is very important to take into consideration when working on any website at all. Why am I saying this? The reason is because the more your page weight increases, that is the load time becomes more, because at the end of the day, you have a lot of content which has to take some time to load, and depending on the speed on the internet that particular device is being used to browse, it's also going to tell how long it's going to take for those information to load up. So let's just go ahead and then take a look at the page weight tool in WYSIWYG Web Builder. So there's one useful tool in here, and then to get access to it, let's go to the page tab, and then we come to the right hand side, we have page weight. So let me just click on page weight, and then it's going to generate the page weight, and then it shows us in here. So let me expand this so we get to see whatever we have in here. So basically, the page weight shows you the objects you have on the page, and then the size of those objects, and then the load time in terms of how long it's going to take, and then depending on the internet speed you have in here, that is at the bottom, how long it's going to take to load those objects. And then also we get to see how those objects were generated. Were they page generated? Was it you that added them, or it's actually even been loaded from the web? So these are the information. So just as you can see, for this particular website, we have animations.css. So CSS is the cascading style sheet as the styles file, and this is 6 kilobytes. That's the size. And then the load time is 0.001. That is if you are using an internet speed of 56 kilobits. So under normal circumstance, for today's internet speed, the lowest you're likely to have is somewhere around 100 Mbps, depending on the location you find yourself. So if this is 100 Mbps, so this is actually not going to take so much time for it to load. But let's just come back to 56 kilobits per second. So this is going to take some time to be able to load. That's the 6 kilobytes we have in here. And then we also have font awesome main.css. That's also a cascading style sheet we have in there. And then we have index, so that's also a style sheet for the page. And then we have some fonts in here. So all these file formats are fonts. This could be an image, but it's actually a font awesome icon. Okay, so we have a font awesome icon in here, which is going to take 162 kilobits. That's a bit size is a bit huge, just like we see over here, 434. Yes, but what you have to understand is that sometimes you don't really have control about some of these things generated on the page. So these are page generated because you use a font or some icon. That's how come we have just that particular size in there. Now, when you are using fonts, let me just close this up a bit and then come to the section. Let me see if I can find fonts. When you are using fonts, there's an option at the very bottom that says how would you want the font to be output or saved or published. So there's SVG, there's font. When you click on OK, let me just select SVG and click on OK, and then come back to page weight, and then let's take a look at the page weight in here. So this has a tendency of increasing the size of your font you are using or decreasing the size of it based on the particular font you are using. So that's an option you should also check out for looking at which one works out best for you. And based on what you select, you are looking at the quality as well for that particular font. So you have fonts being generated by the page, which you don't have so much control over, as well as you have so this is an image I'm using. So this is what I have control over. That's when compressing the sizes of the images or the files, multimedia files you are using becomes very important. And then you also have an HTML page which is generated by the page, and then you have so this is JavaScript. Now with the HTML, for instance, or maybe the JavaScript as well as the CSS, you can have a bit control on how the codes are generated. Now if let me just close this up and come to this section. So go to tools and then come to options, and then we come to HTML. So under the HTML formatting, you realize we have our formatting on default. If we select minimal or minify, it means the codes are going to be minimized a bit. And then for the same thing for CSS, let's select minify, and then for JavaScript as well. Now let's come back here, and then let's see if this has had any kind of impact on our page. So this is what we have in here. I think we had, this was 15. This has been reduced a bit. Now let me just take note of this. Let me just take a shot of this before continuing to see if it actually had some kind of significance on the size we had in here. So let me just come back here, close this, go to tools, and then options, and then come here, change this to default, and then this also to default. Click on OK, go back to the page, generate the page weight, and then let me expand this, and then let me take a look at, let me compare this to be sure. So you realize this was reduced a bit to 14 because of the size of page, that is quotes we have on that particular page. And even for the CSS, you realize this is also reduced down a bit. And then we have for index CSS, that is totally scaled down from 36 to 33 to 26. And then I think that's just about it. I think so. This is also one good way to go about working on your code. So trying as much as possible to reduce the size of the files you have going to be loaded on each particular page. So that's just about how to go about seeing the load time or the page weight for that particular page or a page you are on in WYSIWYG Web Builder. You get to specify the internet speed, and then you see the total duration it is going to take to load all these elements or content onto your page or your browser. That's depending on the device you are using, and then depending on the internet speed you have as well. So this is what we have there. At the very bottom here, it says estimated download time. That is, if we have this internet speed, this is how long it's likely to take. And then this is the total size of this particular page. That's like 1745 kilobytes. That's 1.7 megabytes. And if we have an internet speed of 100 megabits per second, that's going to take some shorter while to load this particular page. So that's just about how to go about the page weight. It is a very useful tool in there that is going to give you an idea about how your page is likely to perform on search engines.